Sometimes in life it feels like we need a lifeline because it feels like we're going to get swept away. A couple summers ago, I had this opportunity to explore some caves. And it was in this setting where I thought, well, this could be a bit sketchy, but it looks fun. So why not? There was a creek, a really fast moving creek that was flowing down a bank really far below, and you had to climb down all these log jams to get into the entrance of the cave. So I thought, what could go wrong? Nothing. So I climbed down, and there was a guide with us. Not really an official guide, someone that said they were a guide, and I thought that was kind of good enough. So we went down to this cave, and it was amazing. It was all I had dreamed of. You could kind of see the sky a little bit, but it was just like a different world. The water was flowing really nicely, so we kind of like were floating down like a dream in this cave. I kind of got braver as it went on. And we got near the end of this section, and there's a big pool where people were swimming, a nice deep pool, but there was also like a section to the left that kind of looked like a water slide. That looks kind of fun. I thought I would go check it out because the water's not deep. So I walked over there and it was about up to my knees. But I realized once I got there that I was kind of stuck. I could either go down this rock water slide or get out, but I couldn't move. And it wasn't really like a water slide. It was if you had glass on the water slide. I would have got cut up really bad. It was pretty rough. So I was kind of a bit worried about this. I didn't want to get all stitched up. So I actually said something that is really difficult to say. Help! So the guide saw me and he came over to me and he threw me this rope that I had to catch and grab onto, and he pulled me out of that area. And I was really thankful because I didn't want to have like stitches all up my back. But I would realize that if he wasn't there, it would have been bad. I would have been taken away and it would have wrecked my day. Sometimes it feels like we need a lifeline to hang on to. In the ancient days of Rome, if you were in the water, if you were overboard, in danger of being swept away, they would throw you a lifeline. And the lifeline in those days was a hemp rope. And I imagine what this looks like, thinking this is going to be a beefy thing you can hang on to. But no, it's about the thickness of my thumb. So you're in the water. It's got to be light enough for them to throw, but strong enough to hang on to. They throw you this thing. You got to grab onto this lifeline that's about this thick. The thinner it is, the harder it is to hang on to. And you're cold in the water. A lot of people don't realize this, but with a sailing boat, they don't have brakes, right? So if you fall in the water, the boat disappears really fast. So you need a couple things. First, you need someone to throw you a lifeline. Second, you need to catch it and hold on. So the first thing, you need someone to throw you a lifeline, and you need to trust that person who throws you the lifeline. You don't want it to be the weakest person on the ship. You don't want it attached to the ship's cat. And you don't want it to be like laying loosely on the deck. You want someone strong holding on to that lifeline. You've got to trust them or else it's not worth hanging on to. You got to trust them. Second thing you need to do, you need to hold on to that lifeline. That's your job. And it is not easy. It's a thin rope and your hands are cold and you're being dragged through the waves because the boat is pulling you and you're going under and you got to keep hanging on. It's a tough thing to do. All you can do is hold on to that lifeline and believe that the person on the other end has got you and they are not going to let go. You've got to hold tightly. There are two things you need. You need trust and you need to hold on. Sometimes it feels like in life that we need a lifeline, something to hang on to, because it feels like we are drifting in a world that can be overwhelming, disappointing, and even confusing. In the book of Hebrews, we're dealing with a New Testament church that probably felt like they were untethered, that they were drifting because the world was against them, directly against them. I mean, we think we've got it hard. They had it tough. The whole power of the empire was not on their side. The religious establishment was not on their side. They had enemies everywhere, and they needed hope. And hope just to get through the day. Hope to live their life. There were people in danger of being adrift and getting lost. The book of Hebrews is interesting because it talks a lot about hope. And hope is like this lifeline that we hang on to in the book of Hebrews. We hold on to this when we feel like we are adrift. The image of hope and a lifeline is all through the book, really. It's this connection between what God is doing and the present. Hebrews says we hold firmly to our confidence and hope. We hold on tightly. Do not let go. Hold firm. Those are words we hear in Hebrews. Like a lifeline, two things are needed. You need to trust the person on the other end of the line, and you need to hold on. So the first thing is to trust who is holding the lifeline. Hebrews chapter 10 tells us about who is holding the other end of the lifeline and why we can trust him. Carrie read it earlier, but I'm going to read it again. By his death, Jesus opened a new and life-giving way through the curtain into the most holy place. And since we have a great high priest who rules over God's house, let us go right into the presence of God with sincere hearts, fully trusting him. For our guilty consciences have been sprinkled with Christ's blood to make us clean, and our bodies have been washed with pure water. This is a new way for those hearing these words, reading this letter. This is a new way for the Jews reading this and hearing this. Because before we were in a world of the priesthood and the high priest and sacrifices and smoke and offerings. And it was all about rituals and what you had to do. And the old way we know wasn't a bad way, it just wasn't the fulfilled way. It pointed to the new way. But it's just that it never did its work in the heart. It was not as deep. And relationship with God was always mediated through a priest, through the high priest, on benefit of the people. So there was this separateness, this gulf, this distance between people relating to God and God. But then Hebrews tells us Jesus came, made himself human, to invite us into relationship with him, and he invites us into the throne room of God. Now, there's a difference here because previously you were not allowed in that throne room. You think about what a throne room meant to people at this time. This is the place where the people go to see the majesty. The majestic go to the throne room to see the majesty. Important people. People don't have access to the king. You don't just knock on the door and say, I want to see the king. You're not invited. You make an appointment, you'll probably never get in. The farmer doesn't show up in his coveralls with dirt and turnips in his pocket and see the king. It's not going to happen. So this is new. The throne room, it says, is now open with Jesus. The farmer with the dirty coveralls, the soldier with the bloody sword, the thief with the guilty conscience, they can all come with no appointment necessary, and they can see the king. Yes, the king will see you. Come in right now. He's not busy. He can see you. Quite a difference, right? This is the image of the throne room. So we hear this. With Jesus, he invites us into relationship with God himself directly. And we hear that you can trust him. He is the one holding on to the other end of the lifeline. The first thing we need to do is trust the one on the other end of the lifeline. The second thing is to hold on and not let go, as we read in verse 23. Let us hold tightly without wavering to the hope we affirm. Hold on tightly. That's what we call hope. There's a biblical word for hope, and I know you love it, and it sounds kind of impressive when I read you Greek words as if I know them like an authority. So the word is elpis. That's the Greek word, and it had a specific meaning. Like a lot of words in the Bible, Christians gave it new meaning. So this word for hope, it meant the future, but what might happen. But more and more, it meant probably something bad is going to happen. It wasn't a word that was like, we're looking forward to something good. It's like that future, that expectation is full of anxiety. It's probably going to be bad. Look, it's raining. It's probably going to be a flood. The roof's probably going to leak. Maybe we'll all get wet. Maybe my microphone will short out and I'll get electrocuted. Oh no. This is hope. But the Christians came and they gave a new meaning to this word hope. And it became something new. So in the New Testament, hope is looking forward to something good that God is doing. It's always connected to a future thing. So Paul in 2 Corinthians 5 talks about because of the death and resurrection of Jesus, we are already new. We're already new. Even though we wait and anticipate our new resurrection bodies. Some of us are waiting and anticipating harder than others. So Paul gives us hope of a new creation. New redeemed bodies that go along with it. That sounds pretty good. I'm ready. This is what 2 Corinthians 5:17 says. Anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun. In all of this life, all of this storm, all of this present brokenness, all of this creation that longs to be healed, Jesus is making all things new. That's the future we look forward to. It's attached to the person and promises of Jesus. We have faith in him, so we hang on with hope. Hope is holding on to the future in the present. Hope is holding on to that future and not letting go. When we feel adrift in this life, we trust and we hold on. That lifeline for us is faith and hope. They're connected. Faith is trust in who has the other end, and hope is holding on to that line because you know he's got it. We hold tightly, without wavering, to the hope we affirm, for God can be trusted to keep his promises. Hope is one of those everyday words that we use, and sometimes it can mean like a wish or a desire. And it's okay to use hope this way. It's not a bad thing, but we have different degrees of hope, right? Sometimes I wish for a sunny day. I hope for a sunny day. It's a future desire. I hope for a sunny day. I don't know for sure. I'm not going to bet my life on it, but I hope for a sunny day. I sure hope I have a good day. That's okay. I hope the Canucks make the playoff. That's a little more serious. That takes some faith. But other times, it might feel like it's all we've got is hope. I hope I can make it through the day. I hope I can show up for my family. I hope I can keep going. Then hope becomes more than just a desire. It becomes something we need to live. Hope is holding on to the future and the present. But I think hope is even more than looking forward to what happens in the future. It's holding on to that future right now in the present. Hanging on to it. It's holding on to that rope in life right now. living life like as if what happens in the future affects how we live now in the present. That's really what hope does. Hope at its best is tangible. Hope changes how we see and how we're seen by others. It changes our posture, how we interact towards the world and with others. Because when we have a hopeful posture, it actually helps other people to be hopeful as well. Now, there's a big difference between hope and positivity that I think we need to clear up. Hope is not positivity. Hope is positive, but it's different than positivity. Hope doesn't deny the reality of the situation, but sees the situation for what it is from the perspective of a promised future. It's different. Positivity spins things and doesn't see the reality and tries to make them something they are not. Hope does feel positive. It should feel positive, but is more than positivity. Hope is the future promises of God touching the present. Promises connected to life that we live with God and others, a lifeline that we hang on to. Hope is about living the future in the present, and it's a faith that demonstrates the future in the present. Hope is showing up for people with a full awareness of their pain in the present, while at the same time holding on to the promise that Jesus is making all things new. Hope is the Beatitudes in Matthew 5, applied in life, demonstrating the future in the midst of turmoil. Like this. It's the poor being blessed. That's where hope is. It's the mourning being comforted. That's where hope is. It's showing a life of humility. It's hungering and thirsting for justice. That's where hope is seen. It's being merciful. It's being pure of heart. It's working for peace. It's being persecuted for doing right. That's where hope shows up in those spaces in the present. That's what hope looks like. And because of all these things, they declare God's future in the present. All of these things show by how we live that we trust who's got the other end of the lifeline. And we are holding tightly to these promises now in the present. The very influential Christian writer Leslie Newbigin wrote a book called Bearing Witness of the Spirit. And he says about mission, Christian outreach, evangelism, he describes it as hope in action. That our faith is actually about putting hope into action in the present. Our calling is to be a hopeful people who show what hope looks like in everyday life, in the mess of life, even when we are adrift. For contrast, I need to tell you what the absence of hope looks like. When we don't live in hope, we generally live in fear. And it feels like constantly complaining about the present situation. It feels like being suspicious of everything that's happening in the world and longing for a way to escape the present and go somewhere else. It's a small worldview where hope is reduced to escapism instead of living hope in the world in the present now. The absence of hope is also nostalgic. Living in the past, pining for what was. Oh, the church used to be so great. If only we could go back to the way it was. Things used to be better. Nostalgia says stuff like that. It's looking for a past that can never be satisfied, and it hurts the person saying it and the people hearing it. because we can never go back. It will never be that way again. It probably wasn't the way you remember it even. Nostalgia creates a picture of what was and who you were in that time that's probably not even true. And it competes against the hope that roots you in the present. And instead of offering hope to a new generation, it's telling them their life is hopeless in this world and how bad it is, and wouldn't it be better if you were born in the 80s or 70s? Because you might have thought I was born in the 80s the way I said that, right? I just realized that. Hope is not wishing it was the way it used to be. Hope is holding on to the future in the present. And sometimes in the present, it feels like we need a lifeline. It feels like we're going to get swept away. I think Hebrews is telling us that Jesus says, like, he's got us. He's got the other side of the rope. He's got it. Trust who's holding on to the other end of the line. Maybe it seems like this day and age, like today, 2025, 26, whatever it is, 23. No, that's not nostalgia. It's just old age. Maybe it seems like life today, in this age, is more troubled, more challenging, untethered than ever before. But hope is holding on to the promises of the future in the present, even this present, especially this present, because it's the only present there is. Like a lifeline, two things are needed. The first thing is trust. And the second thing is holding on to that trust. Faith and hope. They belong together. Sometimes we need a lifeline because it feels like we're going to get swept away, like we're adrift. But we're asked to hold on to that line. He's got you. He's got the other end of the line. You can trust that. You can hold on to that line even when you feel like you're getting pulled down that water slide that's going to cut you up. He's got you. And because of that, we can hold on to the future in the present. Maybe today you feel a little bit adrift. Maybe you feel a lot adrift. The answer isn't trying to escape. The answer is holding on to that lifeline and claiming the promises of God, grabbing onto them in the present and living that future today.